I press record and then start sharing. So once again, can I just ask, can you see the screen with lots of slides on there?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And you can see the one with the big W right in the middle?
Yep.
Good, good, okay. We're recording, okay. Well, welcome back. It's nice to see familiar faces and some new ones. And I'm really looking forward to the year ahead. There's some content that's been refined and I hope improved. That's the that's the idea. There's been some additional content, some taken away, all with the hope of making it a better program, and so that when you guys graduate, you're in essence better sonographers. And I'll go into that. I'll go into that in more detail as we go. So we'll cover, just to reinforce some of the aims. I mean, I think it's always important to remember where we're headed towards, at least where we're trying to get to. Remind you of the design and go into that a little bit more depth. Tell you about the resources, expectations, faculty. There'll be one or two changes, and then there's plenty of time for questions at the end. Hopefully you all received an email from me with learning guides, and they might have prompted you to ask a couple of questions of yourself, and so I'm happy to shed some light on those. I don't want to dwell on this too long, but course learning outcomes, what we want to achieve is in-depth knowledge of normal and abnormal anatomy and physiology. This is one of the really essential and core knowledge, core fields of knowledge that you need to have. You need to be able to utilize and operate ultrasound machines really well. With that in mind, last year there were a couple of students who struggled in the final exams, and a lot of that was to do with operating the machine. I mean, everyone by their second year can, knows perhaps, most of the anatomy and physiology, but operating machines is a really key thing. And we've tried to do some things that will help to us to support you in that regards, but if you can keep that in mind. You'll want not only to know normal anatomy, but obviously abnormal anatomy. So identifying common forms of acquired and congenital disease is important. Acquiring, measuring and interpreting high quality images. Underscore high quality there. That's another thing I want you to focus on. Communication. There'll be increased emphasis on some of the professional aspects that we want you to be developing, and communication is a key part of that. As are, features such as safe and caring and ethical behaviour. And all of this is meant to provide, the foundation so that you guys, in the end, launch out into a career and, have a really rewarding and fulfilling career as cardiac sonographers. So, boiling that down into two aims, we want to provide as a university, as a course, well-structured training to help you foster knowledge, skills, and professional abilities so that you're able to perform high-quality cardiac ultrasound examinations. We want you to develop knowledge, skills, and professional abilities that enable you to further develop through your career. So, for example, this year, as you no doubt have noted from the learning guides, well, certainly the first semester, Principles of Cardiac Sonography 3 will feature a case report, and just a heads up, there'll be a case report for Principles of Cardiac Sonography 4. The reason we've included that is because one common and important way of transmitting information among your peers is providing case reports that may, provide information on something novel, or maybe it's just something really fundamental that you might think, slips under the radar. Anyway, whatever the motivation, case reports are really important, but it's a bit of a skill writing a case report, so that'll be part of that. And so helping you to acquire those skills will mean that you're given some instructions, and there'll be a tutorial. Actually, there'll be two. There'll be one by the librarian and one by myself to help you to research the report, and also to structure it and to write it really, really well. The structure of the course in terms of the way the units work is the same as it was last year: principles and practice. Principles being theoretical aspects, practice, as the name suggests, being the practical elements. In Principles 3, we'll look at cardiovascular diseases, study skills and research skills, and I'll go into elaborate on how they're going to be fostered, including through some of the assessment items. And practice, image acquisition and measurement, communication, professional practice and development. And again, over the next half an hour, 45 minutes, however long it takes, I'll talk a little bit more about professional practice, and then you can see Principles 4. And there's a bit of a typo at the bottom there. It's meant to be Practice 4 as well. As of midday tomorrow, you'll be able to access the Views site. It's only today have the library uploaded the last of the things that they've had to upload, and connected things. And anyway, finally, tomorrow you'll be able to access things the same way as you've done previously. Obviously, material will be relevant to the units for this year. Largely, the look of the site will be similar. Within each unit, there are modules, and I'll elaborate on those in just a moment. The design, the lectures, all the lectures remain, as much as we can, have them online. And there's only one Principles lecture that will be given face-to-face, and that will be by one of the renal physicians here. So it's a good chance for you to get to know the Deputy Dean. He'll provide the lecture on systemic and infiltrative diseases when you're here at the seminar. Practice lectures, they are all online. So they'll all be available to you. Once they're available, as you know, then you can access them at any time and replay them however many times you want to. You'll have access to textbooks just as you had previously. All the recommended texts will be available to you. We'll continue to utilize the textbook of clinical echocardiography a lot. This semester, and I'll point them out in just a moment, you'll have access to a lot more journal articles, guidelines, recommendations, and I strongly recommend that you avail yourself of those. And there's just another screenshot of what the library will make available to you, and be able to access these tomorrow. The seminars remain key. And the first seminar, the dates Monday the 6th and Tuesday the 7th of April. So about 5 weeks away. So that is week 6 of semester, Monday the 6th, Tuesday the 7th. The way we will do things has been changed a little. We're going to try and refine the way we provide the learning content and the activities. So rather than having 4 imaging stations and then finishing with case studies, having started with lectures, we'll try to integrate things a little bit more, and we'll have an additional room wherein case studies and assessment items and tutorials to provide more material occur. So that'll mean that groups, when you're imaging, will be smaller. Hopefully you'll then have more time with the volunteer patients. You'll have more time with the tutors. You'll have more time with myself, and we hope and anticipate that will provide a better opportunity for you really to refine some skills, ask questions, get to know the content much better. So I'm just going to exit out of there for a moment. I'll continue to share. Can everyone see that learning guide there on the screen, a big W right in the middle? I hope so. Marina, I can see you. Can you nod if you can see that? Thank you. So let me just fast forward. I mean, here's a breeze through the learning guide. You can see, I see the approach to learning, the modules, the lectures, the tutorials. I want to pay most attention though to the assessment items. So for principles of cardiac sonography 3, you'll note that there's 3 assessment items, an online quiz in week 7, so that's after the seminar, research assignment, and a case report. So the online quiz is structured in a way very similar to other online quizzes you've done previously. The majority of questions will be multiple choice questions. Any multiple choice question is single best answer, okay? The content will be the first 4 lectures of the unit. The research assignment is different to any of the assessment items that you've done previously. And in short, there are 2 parts. The rationale is to try and get you, looking carefully at the measurements that you make, specific measurements, and comparing those with published normal values. And hopefully that will provide some interest in terms of, you'll be able to compare how, a patient group at the site you are at, how they compare with published values. And then you'll document that in a spreadsheet in the way described, using columns and providing the appropriate units, etc., etc. That's the spreadsheet, and they're the columns that you've got to include. Whoops, I'm going to be too fast, sorry. And then part 2, I want you to extract one of the male patients from the spreadsheet and one of the female patients from the spreadsheet. Let me just go back a little bit. There's going to be 40 patients in the spreadsheet, and then that will be divided into 2, into male and female, okay? So you do 40 consecutive patients, and then divide that into 2. So you might have an uneven spread. Hopefully it'll be close. You know, you might get, I don't know, 18 males and 22 females, whatever the case may be. But 40 patients, and then you divide them into 2, male and female. And then one of the male patients you focus on, and you write some descriptions of what you measured and how they help to explain or don't explain that patient's systolic function. Now, you may find that the measurements aren't enough, okay? So you've got to explain that. Or you may find that the measurements provide everything adequate. The idea is for you to really use what you know about measurements and their limitations and come up with a good explanation. Together with that, you've got to submit the 7 images that are indicated there with that text related to that patient. Now, there will be a template for you to do this on, so you don't have to worry about being too creative about it. The important aspects will be the explanation about measurements and showing nice and clearly that you've made, you know, measurements that are actually, you know, accurate and provide the cardiologist with the you know, right information. You do something very similar with one of the female patients, but the focus won't be systolic function, it'll be LV diastolic function. And obviously there are parameters that are different to systolic function, but you have to do a similar thing. You have to indicate how those parameters do or do not provide you with an indication of that patient's diastolic function. So again, knowing, you know, what they provide and what they don't provide helps you to come up with an explanation for that. And you need to provide those images as well. So that's the research assignment. It will take a little bit of time, obviously. So don't leave this kind of thing to the last moment. I wouldn't say drop everything and start doing it tonight, but start giving it some thought. You'll have to obviously image 40 patients. Now, that 40 patients that you may, you know, will be part of your logbook, but you'll want to extract 40 patients, and you'll need to have access to information that enables you to then provide those measurements requested for the spreadsheets. Okay. Everyone okay so far? Okay, silence. I hope that means that it's all A1. Okay. Then I won't tonight, just in the interest of time, I won't go through the marking criteria really carefully, but it's there in the learning guide. And with regards to marking criteria, one of the, I think, simplest ways to look at it is just focus in on the high distinction column and aim to hit all the aspects that, you know, we're asking for as examiners. And if you aim for those, you're probably pretty likely to get there. Again, the explanation and discussion in this particular assignment are the important parts, and you can see how the marks are distributed there. If there are any really burning questions, I'm happy to ask them. I'll certainly go through this in a little bit more detail when you come to the seminar, and we can chat about, you know, how you're going so far. I think it's always better to have a start, to give it a start, and then if you come across a couple of hurdles, a couple of roadblocks, you know, ask me the questions there at the seminar, and I'll hopefully be able to provide some insights and recommendations. The case report Well, it's worth most of the 3 assessment items, it's worth 45%. The case report and the research assignment are both threshold. So, as you know, a threshold assignment is one that must be passed in order to pass the unit. So, just to make it crystal clear, you can, for example, score 55 out of 100 but fail a unit if you've failed one of the threshold items. Okay, so hopefully that won't happen. But I just want to reinforce the fact that they're threshold, and they're threshold for a reason, is because we think they're important. We think that they are the skills that you've got to exercise, the research and the time you've got to put into it, writing, descriptions and evaluations are key skills and areas of knowledge that we really think are important, and as such, they're threshold items. So the case report, 1,500 words. Last year, people wrote case reports with varying degrees of success. Some were outstanding. 2 or 3 were case reports that I recommended that students try and publish. They were really good. Others were not so good. And usually it came down to a couple of things. One, students just didn't read, what was required. So just be clear about the task and then each of the sections. Secondly, there are sort of the two main parts of a case study are the description and the discussion. The description is something that should include really just the facts, okay? You're describing the facts related to that particular patient, and that will be information related to, to clinical observations and measurements and echocardiographic images and measurements and the report. It's not a place for discussion. It's the facts. The discussion, on the other hand, you want to then expand on the facts and indicate, what sort of the key findings were, what that means for the patient, how that compares with other published things, and if there's anything, really interesting, or whether it's just in keeping with what you're expecting to see. It's a discussion. And the other place that a lot of people didn't do particularly well was the conclusion. The conclusion, to get good marks, you want to make it, a little bit, how would you say, a little bit catchy, but you don't want to introduce new things. If you're introducing something new in the conclusion, you're going about it in the wrong way, okay? So with regards to the case report, I will reaffirm some of the things I've said now, again, when you come on campus. But I think the right way to go about it is not to start with discussion. You want to, the first place, you want to be clear about the task and say, okay, this is a research report about a patient with a congenital heart disease that we've seen at our practice. Now, you might be fortunate enough and see congenital patients reasonably often. It doesn't need to be anything outstanding in terms of congenital abnormalities. It can be something as simple as an ASD or a bicuspid aortic valve, or a VSD. It can be something fairly typical, but it needs to be from your practice So if you haven't seen something new, hopefully there'll be a bit of a database there of things. If you're still really struggling, talk to your supervisor. There's got to be some congenital cases there for you to tap into. And then just be careful about, you know, the word limits and that kind of thing. One thing about word limits is the purpose behind having word limits is kind of twofold. One, if you left it open-ended, you know, things would never get assessed because you'd just be reading things forever. But secondly, having a word limit means that you've actually got to focus on what's really important. And that's another thing about case reports. What you're wanting to do is bring everything together and come up with something that is a synopsis of the key, you know, aspects of that particular case. Okay. I think I've probably said enough about that. I might just go through, as you know, there's a teaching and learning activities timeline at the end of the learning guide. Just look at that, and hopefully things will go to plan. From time to time, like last year, last year I had to have a tooth out all of a sudden, and threw a bit of a spanner in the works one week. Hopefully that's not going to happen this year, but this is a rundown of the way things should happen. Okay. I'll share my screen with you again, the other learning guide. Marina, can you just nod again if you see the practice of cardiac sonography 3 learning guide? Thanks, mate. Okay, so the practice of cardiac sonography 3. Again, there's the approach to learning. The learning outcomes, I'll let you sort of read those for yourselves, but they are worthwhile because they help you to appreciate where we're trying to direct your focus. The structure of the unit, the lectures, tutorials, case studies. This is what I want to get to, the assessments. The first one is an imaging evaluation. Again, it's not due until week 10. So after the seminar, the written exam is in week 16, and so is the practical exam. There's a logbook as well. The logbook is something I'll talk about at length in just a moment. As you can see, 3 of those assessment items are threshold. We think they're important. The logbook, as per last year, is not formally marked, but you get satisfactory or unsatisfactory. You can't pass the unit if it's unsatisfactory. So there are a number of reasons why it potentially could be unsatisfactory. For example, if there were just clearly not enough studies included. You know, you have to come up with in excess of 400 studies for this semester. If there were 150, there's no way that I can let that, you know, sort of pass. If you're aiming for 450 and you've got 449, that's a different kettle of fish. So let me just scroll through. And so the imaging evaluation, here's a chance for you to demonstrate some of your acquisition and measurement skills, and also an opportunity to get some feedback too. So the first part of this is a case of a patient with a systemic disease. For example, a patient with diabetes or kidney disease or hypertension, one of the systemic diseases. And for that patient, the focus is 2D images. 4 parasternal images, 4 apical images. Your best 2 parasternals, your best 2 apical images. Best 2 parasternals, worst 2 parasternals. Best 2 apicals, worst 2 apicals. What do I mean by best and what do I mean by worst? Well, I'll show you in a moment a new document that's been developed with some guidelines about some of the technical things that you want to consider when you're trying to optimize images. But it can be anything from this patient, had technically difficult imaging and I neglected to reduce the frequency. Or this particular image, clearly the time gain compensation was poorly optimized because the near field images, the brightness is much greater than the brightness in the far field. Or I simply didn't readjust the focus and the focal point is way too low. There's a lot of technical things that you can go into about 2D images. The same can be said for technical things related to Doppler images. And this is what we want you to focus on in the second case. With that in mind, I don't want you just to rehash the same things over again. So if, the images that you optimized really well, you did so for certain reasons, don't just provide the same reasons each time. Show the breadth as well as the depth of your knowledge, okay? The same thing goes for Doppler. Don't just show me 4 well-acquired color Doppler images and 4 poorly acquired continuous wave Doppler images. Use all the different Doppler modalities, color, pulse wave, continuous wave, tissue Doppler. See it as an opportunity, as I said, to demonstrate your skill and also to get some feedback, okay? So Doppler, it can be a whole host of things that weren't optimized, from the baseline to the scale to the frame rate. There's obviously a lot of technical things that you want to be thinking about when you're optimizing Doppler images. Any questions so far?
So you can use tissue Doppler. It's not listed in the.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Dean. That's a good question. I've said color Doppler images, 1 color, 1 pulse wave, 1 continuous wave. So what I've tried to do is outline a bit of a criteria and say it's got to have I don't want just the same thing, if that makes sense. So yes, include tissue Doppler, but make sure that you've got each of them. I hope that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. The written exam, well, the written exam is similar to what you guys have had previously. For those who haven't done them, there are 3 sections. The first section is multiple choice. Second section is short answer. Third section is long answer. The short answer questions, generally speaking, are 4 to 5 lines long, and the idea there is to provide, succinct answer, or a succinct or a series of short statements in relation to the question. The long answers are, 3/4 of a page or a page long answers to questions. And obviously the unit content is congenital heart disease, right heart disease, and imaging diseases inside and outside of the heart. So it'll be drawn from the lectures and the tutorials. Okay. And there's the marking criteria. keen, just in the interest of time, to keep moving on. The practical exam, well, it will be similar to to previous practical exams. There are 3 imaging tasks, so image acquisition, image measurement, and then 3 other tasks where you won't be acquiring the images, but you'll be providing some commentary on the images given and indicating whether or not they show disease or whether the images have been optimized. And again, obviously, it's going to be related to the unit content. Let me move on to the logbook. So last year, as you will recall, the logbook had 2 components. It had a record of the images that you acquire, as well as some reflections. Well, the reflections are for year 1 only. This year, you need to provide some evidence of measurements and images you've made. So continue keeping a log of cases that you do, a log of patients that you do, and put them into one of the 3 categories. So again, it's hard to fit everyone in just to 3 boxes, but patients where the focus was ventricular function, they're one group. Patients where the focus was valvular anatomy and function, hemodynamics is another, and then congenital heart disease focused is the other group. Then using a template provided, you need to provide evidence of the following. So you need to, on 3 separate patients, acquire continuous wave Doppler measurements using the PDOF probe. So that's, as you know, the blind continuous wave probe. Twice you can image patients' peak aortic velocity. Now, I strongly recommend you do this on patients with some degree of aortic stenosis. I'm not after there's no prize, no, I don't know, Mars bar for the person who gets the highest gradient, but it's worthwhile doing it on someone with AS so that you get a good, it's educational. And then 1 patient with mitral regurgitation, and the idea is acquiring a signal of that mitral regurgitant jet. 3 other separate patients where you've measured from the parasternal long axis view left ventricular outflow tract diameter. So just remember the key points about that. You want to zoom in order to make sure that you're going to get accurate measurements. You want to be measuring, perpendicular to the long axis of the outflow tract. You want to be making that measurement, early in systole and at the aortic valve hinge points. 3 times I want biplane EF measurements, okay? So provide evidence of having, in 3 different patients, made, biplane ejection, LV ejection fraction measurements using Simpson's method. And on 3 other patients, left atrial volume measurements. Also want you to provide evidence of having calculated pulmonary artery systolic pressure. And there's the formula will be provided for you on the template. Now, most of you will be saying, okay, this sounds like a bit, but well, for the majority of you, I'm sure this is probably just part of what you normally do anyway. So it's drawing from what you do, maybe enhancing it a little, all with the purpose of trying to help you to improve, as well as see that you're developing some good skills. So that is part of the logbook. And as per the other one, there's a teaching and learning activities timeline there at the end of that learning guide as well. What I'd like to do now, I hope you can still see my screen. Marina, can you just nod again if you can see great. Thank you. So as of midday tomorrow, you'll have access to this view site. I just want to go through a couple of things on the site that are a little bit different. It still features, the learning zone, communication zone, and assessment zone. You'll be drawing from the learning zone most often. And what you'll be doing is you'll be accessing material from, the modules related to that particular unit. So that will be the same. The readings, I think they are there. Yep, so readings, you should be able to access those. Announcements, again, I'll be providing weekly announcements, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, leading up to the seminar. Keep an eye out because I'll be providing you with, the times and the groups and trying to provide you with some detail about the structure so that you can kind of come prepared to learn as best as possible. This is an important one. I really want you to just be very mindful that these guideline documents are here. The first one is the imaging sequence. So the imaging sequence has been developed as a tool for you to use to help you to appreciate what kind of sequence we'll be asking you to follow when you do your practical exam at the end of the year. So the sooner you start focusing on something like this, the better. Now the sequence includes roughly 70 images, and they're from obviously all 4 windows. The sequence is not meant to be something that you just repeat every single time verbatim for every single patient. It's meant to provide a framework. Then if you, depending on the patient's indication or what you notice during the case of the study, you might need obviously to focus on something unique to that particular patient. That might be a particular valve, or it might be one of the ventricles. So you won't follow this to the letter every time. Nonetheless, I think it should provide you with a summary of where you should be at routinely if a patient were to come in, sort of as an outpatient. And if you were to follow this guideline, you could be quite confident that you could provide the cardiologist with images and measurements that are going to allow for, a good analysis of that particular patient's cardiac status. So I'll let you go through it. We will go through it at length when you come in for the seminar. But anyway, the imaging sequence is there. I'm going through it at lightning speed. There it is. Parasternal, apical, subcostal, and suprasternal images. The reference values document has been updated a little bit. There were some values there that were incorrect. So if you've got the 2019 version, tear it in half, put it in recycling, and print off a new one. There's some of the values are different. It's pretty much the same, but there are some that have been changed. There's another document here that will come in, I hope, really handy when you do your image evaluation. And this was designed mainly with first-year students in mind. So some of the components of this particular document you'll be very familiar with. The first section is standard views and imaging planes. And you guys will be all over these. It just provides a little bit of a basis in terms of what you're wanting to do in terms of transducer and patient position, alignment, orientation, or some of the essential parasternal views, some of the essential apical views, what to do in order to depth adjust things, subcostal views, and suprasternal views. And it just will help the year one students in particular, I think, will provide a quick reference for them rather than having a textbook that they have to flip through, etc., etc. This second part will, I hope, be much more helpful because it just details some of the things that you need to be thinking about when you're acquiring images and when you're reflecting on how well you have optimized the machine settings, etc., to provide high quality images. So there are things regards to transducer positioning, machine settings, image optimization, image resolution. That is, you know, the spatial and contrast and temporal aspects of image resolution. A brief word. Now, this is not doesn't go in obviously to the detail that Rob's textbook does, but provides a brief description of, you know, the controls that you are going to want to use, and then some of the conventions that you need to keep in mind, you know, from caliper placement to how to recognize, you know, when the chamber or when you're in the, you know, end or midway through a cardiac cycle, and how to make measurements appropriately. Some of the things to consider when you're doing volume measurements, how to trace the ventricle, for example, where to place your cursor when you're measuring the aorta. Now, a little bit like the imaging sequence, this is not exhaustive. And there are lectures and tutorials we're going to want you to draw things from as well. But this does provide some of the fundamental things. And it does a similar thing for Doppler. Okay? Some of the things that you want to focus on when you're optimizing Doppler images and measurements. Again, the different parameters, what you want to do in terms of optimizing angle, sample volume placement, when you're measuring things, ensuring that, you know, scale and baseline are appropriately set, how you trace the waveform. So that's that document, which is new, and hopefully it will provide with a good, quick reference tool. The other guidelines there will come into play as you look at each of the modules and the topics. So when we're looking at, you know, valvular disease or some of the other things in terms of professional aspects, the code of conduct, draw from those according to what you want to look at. There'll be some case reporting tips, Vancouver reference guide. there's information about clinical training, exemplar logbook. I'll provide the supervisors with a guide and some information. There's a short 5 or 6 minute video where I just discuss some of the things that they'll want to try and remember when they're providing you with some support. So that's the view site. Sorry, I'm just going to stop share for the moment. That's pretty much all I've got to say, I think. I've gone on for quite a while. I hope that I've provided them enough information for you to get started. The seminar, remember the dates. Let me just go back to my slides. I've forgotten to mention just a couple of other things. I hope sorry, where are we? Marina, can you see that logbook there? Yeah. So there's a breakdown of the logbook. For this semester, you want 400 in your logbook, okay? What that means is I'm very happy for you to include patients from December, January, February, as if, you know, this was a continuation. Some of the things in terms of expectation I don't want you to forget are when you're submitting assessments, for example, a case report, submit your own work. Now, I'm happy for you guys to help each other, you know, if you've got some references or whatever, but it's meant to be predominantly your own work. Moreover, try to use some of the skills you have as a postgraduate student. And when you're referencing, the idea is if you've used if you've cited a particular article, an author, word for word, you need, for example, to use quotation marks. If you've paraphrased an author, you don't need quotation marks. In either case, you still need to reference the source, okay? And you develop references. Respect one another when you come here. Respect the patients who will be here as well. I mean, you guys have done really well previously. We've got responsibilities, obviously. I need to prepare material, provide it to you in good time, instruct you well and fairly, and make reasonable accommodation if you're having difficulty. Now, every year there is someone who has difficulties, and it's just one of those. But the sooner you can tell me, the better, because these things, if there's something serious, do take a little bit of time. So, yeah, if you're anticipating a problem or something, reach out as soon as you can. One thing I really want you guys to be aware of this year is the professional attributes, skills, behaviours we're asking you to develop. It's more than just acquiring images. Be very mindful that every time you do an echo, you're dealing with a patient. How you relate to that patient influences the outcome. Feeling the patient well, and they feel comfortable that you've got their best.
Sorry, Dr. Stoodley, we can't actually hear what you're saying because there's the kids' voices in the background.
There's someone with some noise in the background. Can you just turn your speaker off on your computer? Is that, it might be modestly better. Yeah, so your behavior matters. Also, for the clinical training seminars, for your clinical training, obviously you dress, according to their requirements, but you want that to be professional. May I ask you to try and maintain those standards at the seminars and exams? Because at the seminars, as you know, we've got different people coming in and giving lectures. We've got tutors, We've got patients. You're coming in and out of the hospital. So it's really a reflection on us as a group, on the course as a whole and the university, and the same for exams. So set yourself a really high standard in terms of, your behavior and the standards of behavior and dress when you're here. The staff haven't changed too much. There'll be a few other people you get to know this year. Lucas Kyratis is the deputy dean, and he'll give you a lecture when you come on campus. Most other people there are the same. Before I get to questions, on the homepage, you'll have noticed that there's an image, and it's one from last year, and I'm over it already. So I want you guys to submit the most interesting or best image that you have acquired yourself. And there's kind of an image competition that you can submit that for. And if you submit an image to me before Friday, the 27th of March, it goes into the running. The prize is high stakes. It means for the rest of the year, your image will be on the home page. So you kind of get bragging rights. Unfortunately, there's been no increase in remuneration for me, so you won't be getting sort of any cash prizes, but there's bragging rights. And at the end of the year, there'll be 2 prizes as well. And these are supported by the Australian Sonographers Association. There'll be a Clinical Excellence Award. So that's obviously mainly related to the clinical practice, the practical exams and the evaluations. And then there's a Case Report Award to what we judge to be the best case report overall. So that's it. I've said a lot. This has been recorded, and there'll be some people who want to see it again. You probably won't want to endure it again. If you've got questions, fire away. If you'd prefer to keep them anonymous, that's okay. You can send me an email or call me sometime. But is there anyone with any burning questions now? No? So just to go over a few things, I'll get you please to send me an email just confirming the name of your supervisor. Okay? I want to be in touch with your supervisor in week 2. Remember that the seminar happens at the the beginning of April, 6th and 7th. The end of March, there'll be a census date too. Please make sure that you've enrolled in everything prior to that. Remember those threshold items. A couple of the new documents, the sequence, guidelines, and values. One other thing that I wanted to mention. You might have seen that the university obviously has to take into consideration the the global health issues related to the coronavirus. Now, our instructions are to press on and to use the appropriate means of ensuring that people remain well. So if you have a cough and if you have a fever, see your doctor. If you have a cough, if you have a fever and the doctor tests you and you come in and you're positive, follow their instructions. Don't go to work. Don't come on campus. Otherwise, please just, assume that things are going to happen. I happen to be fine. I don't think I'm unwell. If you do see people coughing, there are other reasons for people to cough. So don't always assume that people have got something. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of common sense, really. That's probably enough said about that. Anyway, from midday tomorrow, you'll have access to the View site. At the beginning of April, I'll see you all. Before then, I may well correspond. I really look forward to working with you guys this year. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you find it really helps you to develop strong skills, and that this year is a really, really great year, better than last year. Unless there are any final questions, I might sign out. Okay, be in touch. You'll have announcements from me in the next couple of days. Good to see you, hear from you, and talk soon. Thanks very much, everyone.